Hello, everybody. Hopefully you can see me. Hopefully you can hear me. Thank you so much for joining us this evening, 5 o'clock in the UK, or I've no idea what time it is wherever around the world. So I know we've had quite a few people from all over the place sign up, but it's a massive thanks from me to the folks at BenQ and X-Rite, because I'll be honest with you, I never thought this day would ever happen, which might sound weird to say that, but we're doing a webinar now with the two words landscape photography in it. And that is something I never, ever thought would happen. Because as a video I did recently, last 4 weeks or so, I actually called it I Suck Landscape Photography, because me being a portrait photographer, I just could not get it. However, we are doing a talk today on landscape photography, my journey, if you like, but also how I compare and also see an overlap with portrait photography and landscape photography, because certainly over the last few weeks, since I've been getting out there doing what I can within obviously the limitations of all the lockdowns and how far we can travel, I've had a really steep learning curve, and I want to share that with you tonight with a combination of some slides. We're going to go through some short videos, and there's actually one video in particular which you're going to think is a little bit random. It's completely off the wall, but it's got relevance, or at least I hope you think it has. But I'm going to we're using this GoToWebinar. This is all very new to me, using GoToWebinar. So if it seems a little bit kind of jumping around a bit, bear with me. You're going to get to see all the content. Let me just start off by basically sort of showing you a couple of things. I'm going to dive over to my screen now. I'm going to show you my keynote, and hopefully you can see that. I'll just turn me off. You don't really want to see me just there. And I'm going to just basically run through, first of all, because obviously I'm talking about now the comparison that I see between portrait photography and landscape photography, and how that is really helping me to, I'm not going to say get good, but certainly improve. But for those of you who have no idea who I am, just very, very quickly, let me just show you just an example of some of the portraits that I've done over the past few years. And some of these are friends, some are clients, some are just purely things that I've organized to do because I just enjoy getting out there and doing stuff in between hired work. I think it's really important to get out there and always be creative, always be having the camera in your hand, well, as often as you certainly can. But my work has been very varied, but it is always based around portrait photography. You started out doing a lot of physique work, but I really do enjoy portraits that kind of get the viewer, somebody who's looking at the picture, to feel as if they know the person. Do you know what I mean? Get a feel for who they are. You certainly wouldn't get to feel who this person is, because this is an action figure. It's actually a toy, but I just enjoy doing it. But these are some of the kind of pictures that I've taken over the years, like I said, and I've thoroughly enjoyed doing it. It is definitely my comfort zone. It's kind of what I do as a portrait photographer. However, over the last, I would say, 3 years, if we kind of forget about the last 12 months where we've had to deal with restrictions and movement, lockdown, all that kind of stuff. Before that happened last March, or for the 2 years leading up to that, my main thing as a portrait photographer was photographing people like you can see on screen now. Incredible people, these World War II veterans. That's what I was doing. Now, this has been the most, what can I say, really, the most rewarding thing I've ever done as a photographer, most fulfilling thing I've ever done as a photographer. But more than anything, it's also been the biggest learning curve I've ever had in my photography doing this. Now, it's not something that I kind of just like, learned from a book. It's actually getting out there and doing stuff, being in the field, for want of a better phrase, and learning by your mistakes, learning how to adapt to an environment and how to get the most out of somebody. But one of the biggest things I've kind of found is that this here, I'll just show you this next picture. This is me when I was photographing a guy called Ken Doxey, World War II veteran who lived in Burton-upon-Trent. Sadly, we've now lost Ken. But looking at this picture here, this it just sums it up for me. It really does. Hopefully you can see from this picture how me and Ken are getting on. We are completely relaxed in each other's company. We're enjoying each other's company. And this would never have happened if I hadn't changed the way that I do portraits, which also now will link into how I'm doing landscapes, okay? And that is a case of taking the focus off why I was there but more a case of immersing myself and enjoying the environment and who I'm with. All right, and you'll hopefully get to see what I mean, why there's a combination or a kind of overlap there with the landscape photography. Now let me just show you this next picture here, because this is where the link comes in, I believe. I'm going to show you this little picture here. This is a behind the scenes picture of when I was photographing a veteran called Reg Charles. And just a quick kind of overview of how I now do these portraits is, and this could be me photographing you. If this is the first time we've met, you may not want to have your photo taken, because I don't often, if ever, photograph models. These are generally, for want of a better phrase, normal people, everyday people that are going to be photographed, which I'll probably guess is what most people will photograph, friends, family, and whatever. So how do you photograph these people to get the most out of them? So my process, which again, I'll come to the landscape side of things in a moment, my process for this would have been, or is rather, when I first turn up at your house to photograph you, I leave all the kit in the car. So I go into the house, you open the door to me, we go in, we'll have a cup of tea or a coffee, and we just spend time talking about anything and everything, not the photo shoot. More than likely, we won't even talk about that, because I want to keep your mind off it, because I want you to relax. When we are eventually kind of just really getting on, okay, there's a great conversation. Maybe if we're lucky, there's a bit of laughter going on as well. I then feel that we're about right now. Now we can take a picture. We are relaxed in each other's company. Then I'll go and get the stuff, and then we do the picture. And that's made a huge, huge difference to my photography. In fact, now my photography's gone on its head when it comes to portraits, because I spend more time talking, chatting, relaxing, finding out about you or the person who I'm photographing than I do behind the camera. The photo shoot, I don't know, it's 20% maximum of my time when I actually go into a picture. 20% of that time is actually taking the picture. The rest of the time is relaxing, immersing myself in the environment, and so on and so forth. But let me just kind of go through just a couple more things here, because now I want to start to link this into how we do the landscapes. Here's a couple more pictures you can see of me just with some of these veterans, and hopefully you can tell by these aren't, they're not forced, these are just relaxed pictures. We've only been able to take these comfortable pictures because we are relaxed with each other. We spent the time to get to know each other. So that's my portrait photography. But we're here to talk about the link between the portrait photography and the landscape photography, being successful in both. But what is success when we talk about portrait photography? Let's just concentrate on that just for a little bit longer. What is success when you're talking about portrait photography? Is it composition? Is it sharpness? Is it the lighting? Is it the expression? Or is it a combination of all of it? Or, and I'm playing devil's advocate here, I'll throw this out to you. Is it just when, let's say, a relative sees the picture that you've taken of that person, when they go, oh, that is so them. That is just so them. Oh, I love it. You've really captured them. Is that success more than composition, lighting, whatever? That might sound really strange to say that, but I remember going back a few years ago now when I was over in the Netherlands. I was doing a talk at a show called the Professional Imaging Show, which I highly recommend you go to when we're able, get these things back up and running. But I remember coming off the stage, and this guy's come round to me at the end of it, and he has then kind of said, he was all crying, all a little bit upset, and he sort of said that he was really upset because the last picture he ever took of his dad was out of focus. And I understand why he was upset, but I said, look, when you look at that picture that you have taken, which isn't perfectly sharp and what have you, what do you see in your head? Do you see the picture of your dad blurred, or do you see your dad? And he said, well, I see my dad. And that's how it should be. That to me is a successful portrait. And yes, I know all the technical stuff is obviously what we want, but ultimately we want to have a reaction. So what about landscape photography then? What is success when we talk about landscape photography? Is it lighting? Is it composition? Well, of course, that's what we want, isn't it? We want to take a great landscape photo, but is it us remembering everything about where we were? Is it all about the vista, seeing the whole scene and what have you? Is that what the success is as a landscape photographer? So let me just dive into this picture and have this next picture here, because back in 2018, this is when I kind of tried my hand at landscape photography. This is when I decided I was going to do a landscape photography project purely for me, for nobody else, but for my benefit. And this is a picture that I took, and I was shown this location by two very good friends of mine, Ian Monroe and Anthony Carruthers. And I know that Anthony's in the actual chat, I believe, as well. So hello, Anthony, if you can hear me. But this picture here, I thought this is what landscape photography was all about. I thought landscape photography was about the vista, the big scene. All right. And to be honest with you, I kind of, I got really early to do the picture. I enjoyed being there, but I was really focused on getting what I thought was a landscape photograph. And to be honest, now I look at this picture, I know for definite I was running before I could walk when it came to landscapes. I thought it was all about the big picture, and it's okay. It's nothing special. It's definitely one for me, never for a portfolio. So what have I learned then over the last few weeks, now that I am out there, now that I'm kind of had my hand forced to get out there and do these landscapes because of lockdowns, and because I can't get my camera in front of a veteran or anybody really, I am now had my hand forced to get out there and do the landscapes. So what now have I learned in the last, I don't know, 5 or 6 weeks since I've been doing it? Well, I'm trying to be clever with you today, because what I've actually done is come up with something I'm calling the SIR principle. And these are 3 distinct points that I have kind of identified that are helping me to improve with my landscape photography. Now, this, you might hear these 3 points and go, not really me. So I'm not marketing it as 3 points for success when it comes to landscape. I am way too soon into this landscape journey to even start to say, this is how you can be successful in it. That is definitely not what I'm doing. What I'm doing is trying to show you what I think are the 3 things that I've learned and I have always in my mind now to help me improve. All right, so let me just go through these. The first one in this SIR principle is to think small. Now, that, again, sounds bizarre. Ordinarily, we're told, think big. You know what I mean? Don't limit yourself, think big. But let me explain. When it comes to thinking small, what I'm talking about is, you remember the picture from Wales where I thought I had to photograph it, the whole thing in front of me? I was trying to capture the big thing in front of me. It's not really that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to dive out. I'm going to show you a very small segment of a video that I did a few weeks ago, where you can kind of see that I was a little bit overwhelmed when it comes to what I was presented with in front of me. So bear with me. I'm going to get this video up for you now. All right, so we'll go for that video there, and we'll play the video. All right, so this is my second trip out to try and improve myself as a landscape photographer, and I decided to come to a place called Hartland Quay on the North Devon coast. I just don't know where to begin. Now, this is a beautiful place. There is no denying it. I mean, when you first come up here, it's quite overwhelming. I mean, the landscape is just incredible. But for me, wanting to start out as a landscape photographer, I don't know really if I'm maybe trying to run before I can walk, because there just seems too much to choose from, too many places. I found myself walking around, climbing up stuff, which is pretty dangerous around here. But I just don't know where to start. This is one of the first things probably that I've learned now, massive difference between landscape photography and portrait photography, is that as a portrait photographer, which is what I do primarily, I know what I'm going to get by the end of the shoot. In fact, I know what I'm going to get before the shoot even starts. I can control everything. Whereas here, you can kind of turn up, you can do your recce's and try to get the best composition, but even with all the best, you know, planning and prep that you could do, you're still dependent on Mother Nature behaving. So yeah, it's going to be very much hit and miss, and I guess that's pretty much what every single one of you who's a landscape photographer is going to kind of say. It's really no matter how much you plan, you just don't know if you're going to get a result. All right, so that was my first kind of attempt, really, if you like, at doing the landscapes, and you can probably tell from that I was completely overwhelmed. I really was. I didn't know where to go. Do you know what I mean? There was just too much. I was like a kid in a sweet shop, really not what sweet to pick. But I did enjoy it. You know, it was good. I was pushing myself to get out there. But look at the picture on screen now. This is what I thought I had to do. This is what I thought I was there for if I wanted to do landscape photography. And I'll be honest with you, I've spent more time retouching this picture than actually seeing this image, editing it, getting down, putting the camera there, doing the settings, everything. I spent more time editing, trying to get something out of it than actually getting it in camera. And, you know, I kind of looked through lots of books on landscape photography where they have these big rocks in the foreground and all that kind of stuff. So I thought, well, I've got to do that. And that's what I ended up with. And, you know, you've got to start somewhere. Do you know what I mean? I shouldn't compare to other people. We do, though, don't we? We do compare ourselves to other people. But, you know, this is a starting point. And my idea of doing this YouTube video series was to just show everything, warts and all, the successes, the failures, the happy accidents. But in my attempt to get at least something from this whole venture, I also thought, well, I'll tell you what, I'll convert it to black and white. That's always a winner. But it isn't. You can see from this picture here, it's nothing. Do you know what I mean? However, I'm glad I've done it because each time I'm going out, I'm learning something. Just like with the portraits, rather than me sitting at home in a book, reading a book rather, and watching loads and loads of videos and stuff, getting out there in the field, getting your hands dirty is where you learn. And that's certainly where I'm learning at the moment with this landscape stuff. So the first thing I wanted to kind of get over in this principle was thinking small. So hopefully that's making sense. Now, with that whole idea of thinking small, we'll look at the next point of the SIR principle. Let me just dive over to it. So the next point of the SIR principle is immerse. So we've got think small is the S for small, and I is for immerse. Now, what do I mean by immerse? This is where I think is that real overlap now with my portrait photography and how that's improved, and landscape photography, because this is where you're really enjoying where you are. Perfect example for me is two good friends of mine. I've mentioned them already, actually. Ian Munro, Anthony Crothers. Now, Ian Munro, if you do not know Ian Munro, I highly recommend you check him out. M-U-N-R-O is how you spell his surname. A fantastic conceptual photographer. His imagination is off the scale, and how he's able to capture that imagination into a still image blows me away. It's such good fun to watch it. However, when he first started out, he was a landscape photographer, and Ian is somebody who he's a proper outdoor person. He loves the outdoors, going hiking across the Brecon Beacons, going all over the place. And when he was doing his landscape photography, it was like a marriage made in heaven, you know, an outdoor person doing landscapes. It doesn't get better than that. But what Ian admitted to me a few weeks ago was that he became so fixated on getting the image that he kind of missed everything that was with him. Now, of course, he's there because he's looking at a certain part of the scene where he's at, but the journey there, everything else outside of his camera everything else, apart from what you could see down through the lens, was almost being ignored. So he was missing the beauty of it, if you like. And I can't believe I'm even talking like this. I never believed I'd have these words like beauty and passion, and but it is. This is what the landscape photography is doing for me. He was missing it all. Another one, Anthony Cruthers. He said he went on holiday and he's gone with his camera on his own, bit of a break. He'd gone for a walk and he's walking over the dunes and over these stiles and getting to where he wanted on this particular beach to do a picture. And he did the picture and he's quite happy with it. However, me and Anthony were talking the other day and he says he's going to have to go back because the journey that he walked to get to the beach, he went over beautiful wooden stiles in fields when there's the heather and all that kind of stuff, which would make amazing photographs. But he was just so fixated on getting to that one point, he hadn't immersed himself into that environment. Does that make sense? I don't know. I hope it does. So here's my attempt at being wise or wordy. Landscape photography is a journey, not a destination. That's not my saying. I haven't come up with that. I'm just sure I've heard that before. But I guess as well, we could kind of say that photography, portrait photography, is also a journey. It's not a destination. Because I know for a fact that when I was photographing these World War II veterans, which I will be picking up on again once we're able to, once we're safe to do, if I hadn't taken the focus off the end result like Ian was, with the picture, I wouldn't have been able to develop that relationship with the person in front of the camera to really capture them. It's exactly the same with the landscape photography. Now, when I sort of realized that, and I started then to realize landscape photography isn't about the big vista, which if you're kind of trying to be, do landscapes, can put a lot of stress and pressure on you to come back with a result. If you can kind of accept that it isn't just the big thing, it can also be the smaller things, that's when it can really change. And that's how it really changed for me. So, for example, this picture here is one that I did when I literally was just there in this woodland area near to where I live and just completely and utterly relaxed, enjoying where I was. Got there nice and early. I was amongst the trees and stuff while the morning was waking up. The sun was breaking through the tree canopy. The birds were singing. It was just fantastic. I was enjoying the time there like I would enjoy the time with a person that I was photographing. It was just wonderful. And I wasn't even looking for the picture, and it just kind of happened. These things just just by slowing down, relaxing, immersing myself, I started to notice stuff. So I want to show you another little video now. I think that's video just here. So let me just come out of here. I'll turn off myself. Then I will show the video. We're going to go to this little video here, which is one which kind of talks about what happened basically when I was there. So again, just a few minutes to watch this little video. All right, so in this video, I want to show you something that happened yesterday. I actually got a picture I didn't expect, and the way it happened, I think is going to make a huge difference to my landscape photography journey. So yesterday morning, I headed out nice and early to catch the early morning sunrise. I'd already planned where I was going to go, and I knew exactly the direction in which the sun was going to be coming up. So it was just great to get out and just have a really leisurely meander around a local forest. It was so incredibly relaxing. I kept my camera in my bag, not walking around with it in my hands, just hoping to pounce on something that could be a photograph, but instead just kept it in my bag as I just walked around. Now, even though I'd planned it to the point that I knew where to go and what time to go, I guess in the back of my mind I still was thinking
I'd end up getting a picture. So although I was feeling relaxed, I also felt there was a little bit of me that was also searching. I just couldn't seem to release that searching for a photograph. Eventually, I'd gone all the way around the track that I'd intended, and I was pretty much back to where I started. But before I went back to the car, I thought I'd just kind of cut across and go into an area of the forest where there's a wonderful canopy above, and just grab a coffee and just stop, stand still, and take it all in. And that's exactly where you join me now. I just literally got to this particular point. There was some sun coming through the trees as it was rising in that kind of direction. Light was coming through the trees, and I thought I'd get the shot, but I kind of missed it. Didn't have everything ready, so that kind of shot went to nothing. So I thought I'd just park up in this place here, put my bag down, and just grab a coffee. And I guess it was kind of while I was in that state of mind, which was not really thinking about photography, just enjoying the moment. I was kind of just standing here, listening to the birds, kind of listening to the morning wake up. There's all the sounds that you get in the forest of all the little creatures as they're kind of moving around. You can hear the odd break of a branch, or the sound of a bird singing in the distance, the trees kind of whistling and, well, not whistling, but rustling in the breeze. It was just so peaceful. And I think that really did kind of just change everything for me, because before now, even though on this particular trip I'd come out with the intention of being relaxed, okay, I'd kind of put into my mindset, taken all the advice that I'd gotten off everybody that had so kindly commented and emailed, just come here to enjoy it, have a walk around and really enjoy it. But when I got here, having the coffee, my mind's just kind of just drifted off, enjoying being here. Photography was kind of forgot about. Then I'm just looking around, just taking it all in, and that's when I noticed the tree.
All right, so let me just, in fact, I'm going to stop showing my, no, you can see me, hope you can see me. Right, so that video there obviously kind of highlights the fact that how the benefit to me by just slowing down made a massive difference. Now, where are we now? We're kind of halfway through at the moment. I've got so much more I want to show you, editing, printing and stuff, but I'll just kind of dive in to say, if you've got any questions at all, or any advice, tips, tricks, techniques, anything that you've learned, because you take landscape photographs, get them in the chat. I'd really appreciate it. And obviously, if you've got any questions about any kit that I'm using, why I'm using it, because I've actually made a decision now that I'm only going to use a 70 to 200mm lens, because I found that having too many lenses to choose from was stressing me out. It was causing too much confusion. So I thought, right, I'll stick with one lens. Again, like I did when it comes to portrait photography, I chose to use the 85mm lens for my close-up portraits and nothing else. That seemed to help as well. So I'm thinking maybe the same approach with my landscapes. All right, okay. Now I have got another short video. This will be the last video I want to show you, but this kind of, to me, really highlights the feeling that I'm looking for when I'm out there. All right, rather than me just going out there really thinking, right, I've got to get a picture. By relaxing, I want to try and get myself in a state of mind where I'm just completely at ease with where I am. Again, I can't believe I'm even talking like this when it comes to doing photographs. But I'm going to show you a short clip from a TV program, and it's actually a program called Gone Fishing in the UK. It's with two guys, Paul Whitehouse and Bob Mortimer. And if you don't know who they are, they're comedians, they're TV personalities. They've also done some acting. Incredible. And this program is called Gone Fishing when they're going out. But just watch what happens at the end of this short clip to Paul Whitehouse when he's watching this, when he's out there. So let me just find this video for you, and then we'll carry on.
Yes. Move.
Oh, you're over there.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
I'm doing you our birthday party. Can you see?
Fireworks. Are you sure that this is responsible behaviour?
Yes, because they're near a cake.
Oh, right. That's the rule, is it?
Happy birthday.
Well, thank you very much. Is it heart healthy?
No, but it's just once a year, Paul, isn't it?
Yeah. Fantastic. Oh, my God.
Yes, I've been to Lidl.
Whoa.
Whoa.
Oh. Cheers. Really good.
There's
And
a
the
fish.
trout are rising, the mayfly are rising. Look at the light. Bob, look at the light.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Amazing, isn't it? And there's one final thing.
Sorry, I am actually just the sheer beauty of that has just sort of, is the word enraptured?
Are you enraptured?
Yeah, I am. Thank you, Bob.
Thank you, Paul.
Good. How good is that? When you can see Paul's reaction to that particular scene there in front of him, just wonderful. And that's what I want. Now I am going to kind of show you something else. I'm going to show this, but before we move on, you know what I said about kind of slowing down, enjoying it, and looking at the scene around you. There was a guy when I did that video that said, "I suck at landscape photography." This guy posted a comment to me, and I just want to read what that comment was. And this was when I did a thing last week, I think it was, for the Kelly One community. And I said I wasn't very good at landscapes. He's put, "So what did you do? You did a portrait of a beautiful and striking tree. How did you do it? You spent time with it, like walking into the house without all your equipment and having some coffee, but this time with the moss and the leaves on the tree, and then settled in and used your portrait experience to take portraits of them." And I just thought, because I didn't realize at first that that's kind of what I'd done, but do you know what? He's right. By me slowing down, absorbing, and just doing what I do when I take portraits, of just getting to know the person, in this case, getting to know where I am, it made a huge difference to me. All right. Right, let me just carry on with the slides that I want to show you here. So I'm going to stop showing the video, and we'll dive over to my main screen 2, and we'll dive into there. There we go. Cool. All right. So the next thing I wanted to kind of say was, again, by me absorbing myself, or immersing myself rather, in the environment, I also realized that not just looking out, but looking down and looking up is making a huge difference. And I guess to so many of you out there, this is just such obvious stuff, but to me it wasn't. It really, really wasn't. But I wasn't going to do any of this until I actually slowed down. All right, so the next thing, repeat. This is the final part of the three-point principle, this SIR principle. So we're talking now about repeat. Now, let me just show you this portrait here of a World War II veteran, David Edwards. Wonderful, wonderful man who, again, sadly we lost. This past 12 months has been horrific for veterans. They've really struggled. So we lost David. But this was the first portrait that I ever did of David. And I've actually never shown this portrait up until this very moment. So you're the first people to see this, because this one's been on my hard drive and never seen the light of day. So we're talking about repeat. I'm going to dive back into the portrait world just for a second and just kind of ask you, again, just throwing it out there for you to think about this. If you look at portraits that maybe some of you have done, okay, if you could go back to photograph that person again, what would you do different? Would you do it different? Would you now know something about them that would maybe change the way you photograph them? Would you maybe position them differently? I don't know. Is there some, if you could have the chance to go and do that photograph again, would you? Because that's exactly what I did with David. I drove to Wales to photograph David. This is what I got. And I kind of just missed what I was also wanting to do. Because I kind of rushed it, maybe, I missed the most important thing. And for me, that was also to include his medals, which you can see now at this angle. You can't really see them. So I rang them. I rang David and his wife, Diane. I rang them when I got back home that very same day. And I said, can I come back tomorrow? Can I come and do the portrait again tomorrow? And they were like, yeah, they are just lovely, lovely people. But like I said, unfortunately, we've lost David. But so number one, you can see on screen, is the first picture. Then going back, repeating what I'd done to go and see David again, just like me going back to that forest area and getting to know it, seeing things different, noticing something different about it, I then did a different portrait of David. And number 2 is the picture that has been used on the website and also been shown at the exhibition. So repeating part of this whole process is massively important. We don't just, you know, I would kind of hazard a guess that any of you out there are landscape photographers. If you think of some of the most amazing pictures that you've taken that you're really happy with, was it the very first and last time you ever went to that place? Or is it somewhere that you'd been to maybe a few times to get to know it, get to know where the best places are, get to know where the sun sets, get to know everything about it before you really got what you wanted? If it's not, and it was your first shot, then you've got to contact me because I need to know your secret. But I think pretty much it's a case of you have to repeatedly go back. For example, I mean, also near me as well, for example, there's a tree near me where we've moved to in Devon. At the bottom of our garden, we've got this field and this tree, this wonderful trees in it. And this is a picture that I took the very first time. But I've kind of committed myself to keep taking pictures of this tree to see if I can improve. So I did this picture, changing my thought process. Do you see, before I went wide, like I did with that picture in Wales, but now I've gone closer, changing to that 70 to 200. Oh, and by the way, Ricky, I know that you've posted to say about the 70 to 200, I think is a really good lens for using landscapes. Thank you. That's a kind of like a little pat on my back to say that I must be doing something right then if I'm making those kind of decisions. So thank you. Then I also noticed that the weather had changed, which obviously has a massive impact on landscape photography. The weather had changed, a bit of mist and whatever came down, so I went out yet again. So I'm going to keep doing this. Just keep on doing this. Isn't a process that's going to end. I'm going to keep on going, seeing what I can get from this. But again, slowing down, immersing myself. I noticed these mushroom and what have you as well. So toadstool, fungi. So yeah, that all kind of stuff there. I mean, Anthony's actually just put a comment in. I'm going to read this out. Anthony's put, as well as David's medals, I think you captured a better expression on the second time around. I guess that proves the point. Yeah, Anthony, yeah, you're dead right. You know, it's great that you pick up on that, but I think this whole process of, you know, thinking small, immersing yourself in it, and then repeating. There was maybe I didn't even know that I'd noticed something more about David, which enabled me to capture that expression. I really don't know, but there's such an overlap when it comes to portraits and landscapes as I see it. There really, really is. All right, okay, so just to show you a couple of the pictures that I've done recently by going back to this repeat, because I also want to show you a little bit of editing, and also want to do a print that I've not done yet. So you're going to be the first people to see it, whether it fails or not. Okay, right, so here's one picture here. You can see where I, again, went out nice and early in the morning, really enjoying where I was. I kind of took the camera bag and went for just a gentle stroll, enjoying being there, really enjoying being there. The morning, waking up and just seeing what happened while I was there. And I just happened to see this scene as I was walking away. And it's, you know, I'm nowhere near where I want to be when it comes to landscapes, but my whole feeling towards it has really changed. And that woodland area that you would have seen on one of the videos there where I was panning around, that I said I was having a coffee and just relaxing, bit of mist on one morning. So I went up and I actually captured this one, which I was kind of really pleased about. So that is my SIR principle, if you like. So thinking small, immersing yourself in the environment, enjoying it, rather than just thinking about or looking straight through the camera, enjoying where you are. This is the great thing I think about landscape photography, is that you don't, I guess, if you don't do it for a living, all right, which I don't, portraits is what I do, is it really the end of the world if you don't come back with a picture? Is it really that bad? Is it really that, you know, is it a disaster? I'm going to say no, because let's face it, it's been quite challenging for us all since March of last year, restrictions. And I think maybe it's fair to say that all of us have started to realize the things that we maybe took for granted before, now that we can't have them, the freedom to go out and just enjoy being with people or being in certain places. So with landscape photography, if I'm going out there and I don't get a picture, it's still good, because I've kind of been out there and enjoyed it and just, you know, got some fresh air in my lungs and what have you. All right. I hope that everything that we've gone through today has made sense. I just wanted to show you that I believe, as somebody who is a portrait photographer, that there really is an overlap with landscape photography. And that whole principle about not expecting to get the big vista, looking for the smaller, take the stress off yourself, look for the smaller elements and maybe build up to the bigger ones, Immerse yourself in the environment. Enjoy where you are. If you don't get a shot by the end of it, it's not the end of the world. We all need to get out more if we can, wherever we can at the moment. Get some fresh air in your lungs. That is a positive. If we get a picture at the end of it, then double bonus. And then repeat. Don't think you're going to get the best shot. This is what I'm talking to myself now. Don't think you're going to get the best shot you can the first time you go. It's going to take plenty of times going back. How would you photograph that person again if you could go back, is what I'm saying. All right. So there you go. Thank you very much indeed. Catch you online. Check out my website, glyndewis.com, on social media at Glyn Dewis. And thank you for joining me. Thank you for allowing me into your homes this evening. Take care, folks.